Alright, I finally have another Beyblade unboxing, this time PhoenixFlare. Pretty late on this, but just took a while to arrive, so guess we'll finally unbox it now. So I'll go ahead and get everything opened up. So first up here we have the instructions, as I always show for whatever reason. Next up we have the ratchet, the one reused part in this booster, 980. Looks kind of cool, has this translucent red here. Opaque silver, which I do like, does stand out. But yeah, 980, makes sense though. Phoenix just always has 9-sided ratchets. Went from 60 to 70 to 80, makes sense. Then for the bit we have Wall Wedge. Got the wedge bottom here, this kind of wall pattern, the 16 gears. Seems almost black, but it has like this green tint to it, just slightly. I'm not a big fan of this part. I'll talk about why a little bit later, but yeah, it's just kind of whatever. It's a new part though, I guess. Moving on to the blade, we have the Phoenix lock chip, which actually looks pretty good. Was not a fan of Rudder's gear chip design, so this is a pretty massive improvement. Yeah, the plastic is of course red there. Then for the assist blade, we have Zillion, which is honestly pretty thick. That's kind of cool. Dark, translucent red plastic. Doesn't really do anything in particular though, but interesting pattern, I guess. Then we of course have the main blade flare. It is painted red, so that's cool. Got the translucent black plastic, some gold detailing. Looks decent for a defense blade. Let's go ahead and check out the part weights. So first up here we have 980 at 6.77 grams. Then we have Wall Wedge at 2.44 grams. Then we have the Phoenix lock chip at 1.7 grams. The Zillion assist blade at 6.63 grams. And the Flare main blade at 31.52 grams. Checking out the full blade, it is 39.89 grams. It is very heavy, getting very close to 40 grams there. And then yeah, the full combo here is also pretty good at 49.09 grams, nearly 50 total. That is quite heavy. All right, let's go ahead and start putting the bay together here. So first up we have the full blade, PhoenixFlare Zillion. Pretty bulky looking, makes sense for a defense blade. And then grabbing the ratchet and bit. There we go. PhoenixFlare Zillion 980 Wall Wedge. Another very, very tall CX bay here, which isn't always ideal, but here it is. It does look pretty decent, I would say. Let's go and compare it to some older Phoenixes. First up we of course have Phoenix Feather. They look extremely different, so not a whole lot of overlap there. But they are still Phoenixes. Then we have Phoenix Wing. I sort of wish we just kept the attack stuff going for Phoenix, but you know, it is what it is. But yeah, again, they look fairly different, being different types and all. And then last, and probably least, we have Phoenix Rudder. Probably the closest comparison, though they still look pretty different. Stamina, defense, so yeah, I guess underneath they're quite different with the different bait colors, but yeah, not the biggest fan of Rudder. I would say PhoenixFlare is probably a little bit better than Rudder at least. Again, I wish Phoenix just stayed attack. Didn't care as much initially, but just thinking about it more now, yeah, that would have been preferable. Alright, so let's go and talk about PhoenixFlare just as a bay now. It is weird It's not that interesting of a release, I'll just say that right now. For its conceptual design, I'm just gonna give it a 3 out of 10. It's not very good. That doesn't mean it's bad competitively or anything. I just find it to be pretty boring. The blade doesn't do anything, there's no gimmick of any sort on the Assist Blade. It's just a basic defensive blade, but in CX. And we've already had a basic defensive blade in CX with Perseus Dark. So it doesn't do a whole lot there. I would say it's probably a better blade overall than Perseus Dark, but still, it's not great. And beyond that, we have the parts here, which are also a bit of a strange case. 980 is fair. As I said, Phoenix has always used 9-sided ratchets, aside from Phoenix Feather, but that feels more just like a prototype than anything else. And again, you go from 60 to 70 to 80. Fair enough. Wall Wedge, though, I just don't like this part. So there was two main unique parts to Wedge. First up, the actual bottom piece here was definitely the best, genuinely defensive bit in the game. Discounting parts that were used for defense but weren't technically defense, like Hexa. But yeah, I like this bottom part. It's the same here pretty much, so that's nice. The other good thing about Wedge, though, was that it only had the 10 gears. It was able to get itself off of the extreme line easier with less stamina risk. Also, having low burst resistance means that that's even more important because it's less likely to slam into an opponent as hard and just self-burst. And now we go from that to 16 gears with this wall piece. It just doesn't really feel ideal. You lose a lot of what made Wedge actually good, and you don't really get much in return. I actually think Wedge was more unique as is than adding on to it. I would have maybe given PhoenixFlare a 4 out of 10 if it was just very, very basic and boring, but because I think Wall Wedge actively just harms the Bay, I'm gonna lower it to a 3 and just say it's kind of bad. Now for its physical design though, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. It's actually pretty good. The paint definitely does a lot of work here, but I think overall, unlike with the previous Phoenixes, especially Phoenix Wing, the paint doesn't carry as hard anymore. I think the design itself would stand on its own, but the paint does help. I like the red, I like the gold, I like the black. Works well. I just think the general shape is a little bit boring, which is why it's not higher, but it still looks pretty good. And then flipping this thing over, I think, the red here is fine. The bit's fine. I actually do like this sort of silver here. I mean, there's no silver on the metal, so I don't mind having it on the ratchet at all. Honestly does work pretty well, I would say, but yeah, PhoenixFlare, not the most interesting release, if I'm being honest here. It's just kind of, fine. But usually for January boosters, we don't really get, a whole lot of crazy stuff, so can't be too upset with it. I just wish that maybe Phoenix got a bit more attention and stayed attack, but I also don't want to hold that over PhoenixFlare too heavily, so it's fine. Looks good enough. Conceptually not great, but well, it's at least better than something like Shinobi Shadow, so I'll take what I can get, I guess. But yeah, there's really not much to this thing, so that's really all for this video, so thanks for watching, and bye-bye.